Before we dive in, comment where in the world you're watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. Derek's hand wraps around my wrist, stopping me mid-stroke in his basement. His gym buddies Travis, Blake, and Jordan crowd the doorway, their post-workout bodies still pumped and gleaming. Connor sleeps upstairs, oblivious. Derek's grip tightens as his eyes darken with intent. Before we begin, if you want to hear uncensored stories, the ones too hot for YouTube, check out my Patreon in the description. Now let's get into it. The invitation had seemed innocent enough. Connor texted me Friday afternoon, asking if I wanted to crash at his place for the weekend. His mom was visiting her sister in Portland, and he'd just gotten the new Call of Duty. I'd known Connor since middle school, back when we were both awkward kids trying to figure out where we fit in the world. Now at 22, we'd maintained that friendship through college despite going to different schools. I showed up Saturday evening with my backpack, expecting pizza and video games and maybe some beers if Connor had managed to snag any from his older cousin. What I hadn't expected was to walk into a house that smelled like testosterone and the kind of masculine energy that made my skin prickle with awareness I'd spent years trying to suppress. Connor's dad, Derek, was in the kitchen when I arrived, and the sight of him stopped me mid-step. I'd seen him plenty of times over the years, but something was different now. Maybe it was me who was different. He stood at the counter preparing what looked like protein shakes. He's wearing a tank top that showed off arms that had no business being that defined on a man in his mid-40s. His dark hair had silver threading through it at the temples, and when he turned to greet me, his smile was warm, but his eyes held something I couldn't quite name. "Ryan, good to see you." His voice was deeper than I remembered, or maybe I'd just never paid attention before. "Connor's upstairs. You know the way." I mumbled something that might have been a greeting, and practically fled up the stairs, my heart hammering for reasons I didn't want to examine. Connor was in his room, already deep into the game, and I threw myself into the familiar comfort of our friendship, trying to forget the way my pulse had jumped when Derek's eyes had tracked over me. The evening passed normally enough. We played games, ordered Thai food. And Connor told me about this girl in his marketing class he was trying to work up the courage to ask out. I listened and offered advice while trying not to think about the fact that I'd never had that kind of interest in girls, had never had that conversation from the other side talking about someone I wanted to pursue. Around midnight, Connor's phone buzzed. He glanced at it and grinned. "It's Ashley. She actually texted me first." He looked at me with excitement. "Dude, I'm gonna call her. You mind?" I waved him off, grabbing my backpack. "I'll head down to the guest room. Let you have some privacy." The guest room was in the finished basement, a comfortable space with a queen bed and its own bathroom. Connor's mom had decorated it nicely, and it had become my usual spot when I stayed over. I changed into athletic shorts and a t-shirt, brushed my teeth, and climbed into bed with my phone, fully intending to scroll through social media until I got tired. But sleep didn't come. I lay there in the dark, hearing the muffled sounds of the house settle in around me, and my mind kept circling back to Derek, to the way he'd looked at me, to the strength evident in his arms and shoulders, to the fact that I'd felt something when our eyes met, something I'd trained myself not to feel. I'd known since high school that I was attracted to men, had known, and carefully buried it, telling myself it was just confusion, that it would pass, that I could make myself be like everyone else if I just tried hard enough. But here in the dark, alone with my thoughts, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. My hand drifted down my stomach almost without conscious thought, slipping beneath the waistband of my shorts. I closed my eyes and let myself remember the way Derek had looked, the casual power in his stance, the knowing quality in his smile. My breath came faster as I stroked myself, finally giving in to the one I'd been suppressing all evening. I was so lost in sensation that I didn't hear the basement door open, didn't hear the footsteps on the stairs, didn't realize I wasn't alone until a voice spoke from the doorway, deep and rough and unmistakably amused. "Well, this is interesting." My eyes flew open and my hand froze. Derek stood in the doorway, backlit by the stairwell light, his massive frame filling the space. But he wasn't alone. 3 other men stood behind him, all of them roughly the same age, all of them radiating the same kind of barely contained energy. Horror flooded through me, cold and paralyzing. I yanked my hand out of my shorts and tried to sit up, tried to form words, tried to make my brain work through the mortification. "I'm sorry, I didn't. I wasn't—" "Relax." Derek moved into the room, and I realized with a jolt that he was shirtless, wearing only gym shorts that hung low on his hips. The other 3 men followed him in, and I could see now that they were all dressed the same way, their bodies gleaming with the kind of pump that came from a hard workout. "We just got back from the gym. Didn't mean to startle you." But he was smiling, and there was nothing apologetic about it. He looked at me the way a wolf might look at prey, assessing and hungry. The other men arranged themselves around the room, casual but deliberate, and I suddenly felt very trapped and very aware of how thin my t-shirt was, how exposed I was in these shorts. "This is Travis, Blake, and Jordan." Derek gestured to each man in turn. "My workout crew. We hit the 24-hour gym on Saturday nights, when we need to blow off some steam." Travis was the tallest, maybe 6'3", with sandy hair and a jaw that looked like it had been chiseled from stone. Blake was darker, his skin bronze, his body carved with the kind of definition that spoke of obsessive dedication. Jordan had a softer look, almost boyish, despite being clearly in his 40s, but the way he watched me made my stomach flip. "Guys, this is Ryan, Connor's best friend since forever." Derek moved closer, and I found myself pressing back against the headboard. "Though I'm thinking we didn't know Ryan quite as well as we thought." "What do you mean?" My voice came out thin and strained. "I mean," Derek said slowly, sitting down on the edge of the bed without invitation, "that Connor's mentioned you 100 times over the years, always talking about his buddy Ryan. But he never mentioned that you had certain interests." The room seemed to tilt. "I don't know what you're talking about." Travis laughed, a low rumble that made heat crawl up my spine. "Kid, we know what we interrupted. No point in pretending otherwise. We should go." I started to move, to swing my legs out of bed, but Derek's hand shot out and caught my wrist. His grip was gentle but absolutely unyielding, and the touch sent electricity racing through my nervous system. "You're not going anywhere," Derek said quietly. His thumb pressed against my pulse point, and I knew he could feel how my heart was hammering. "Not yet. Not until we have a conversation." "About what?" I whispered. Blake moved closer, standing at the foot of the bed. "About the fact that you were up here thinking about something. Someone. Getting yourself worked up in my buddy's basement. And about the fact," Jordan added from his position by the door, effectively blocking the exit, "that you're not running, not fighting, just sitting there with your pupils blown wide and your breath coming fast." I wanted to protest, wanted to tell them they were wrong, that this was all a misunderstanding. But Derek's hand was still wrapped around my wrist, and his eyes were boring into mine, and I couldn't seem to form words. "Here's what I think," Derek said, his voice dropping even lower. "Oh, I think you've been hiding something for a long time. I think you came down here tonight and let yourself feel what you really feel, for maybe the first time. And I think when we walked in, part of you was relieved." "That's insane," I managed, but it sounded weak even to my own ears. "Is it?" Travis moved to sit on the other side of the bed, bracketing me between him and Derek. Up close I could smell the sweat and exertion on him, could see the way his chest was still rising and falling from their workout. Because you haven't asked us to leave. Haven't tried very hard to get away. You're just sitting here, trembling, and I don't think it's all fear. He was right. God help me, he was right. Mixed in with the terror and embarrassment was something else. Something that made my skin feel too tight and my body hyper-aware of every place these men were close to me. "We're not going to hurt you," Blake said, his voice surprisingly gentle. "That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The four men exchanged glances, some wordless communication passing between them. Then Derek's grip on my wrist shifted, becoming more of a caress than a restraint. "It's about the fact that the four of us have known each other for 15 years, he said. Known each other well enough to recognize certain things, to share certain interests. And right now, looking at you, we're all recognizing something." "What?" I breathed. "Potential," Jordan said simply. "The potential for you to stop hiding, stop pretending, start accepting what you really want." My mind was spinning, trying to process what they were suggesting. "Connor's upstairs," I said desperately. "Your son is right upstairs." Derek's smile turned sharp. "Connor's on the phone with a girl he likes. He's going to be occupied for hours. Trust me, I know my son. And the basement is soundproofed. We had it done when we finished it." The implication in those words made my breath catch. "This is crazy. I should go. I should..." "Should what?" Travis's hand settled on my shoulder, warm and heavy. "Go back to pretending? Back to hiding from yourself? We saw you, Ryan. Saw what you were doing. Saw the expression on your face. You were finally letting yourself feel something real. And we can help you with that," Blake added. "Can show you what it's like when you stop fighting yourself." "I don't understand," I whispered, even though part of me understood perfectly. "Yes, you do," Derek said. His free hand came up to cup my face, thumb brushing over my cheekbone. "You're just scared. And that's okay. This is new territory. But Ryan, you need to understand something. This opportunity, what we're offering, it doesn't come along often. The four of us, we know how to take care of someone like you. Someone who's been denying themselves. Someone who needs guidance. Someone who needs to be shown," Travis murmured against my ear, having shifted even closer. "Taught. Opened up to everything they've been missing." My whole body was trembling now, caught between the urge to run and the desperate, aching need to stay, to see where this went, to finally stop fighting against what I wanted. "Connor," I said weakly, grasping at the last thread of resistance. "We'll never know," Derek promised. "This stays between the five of us, our secret, our time. Right here, right now, you can make a choice. You can get up and walk away, go back upstairs, and we'll pretend this never happened. Or, I asked, even though I knew I shouldn't. His smile was dark and promising. "Or you can stay. Let us show you what it feels like to finally surrender to what you've been craving, to be wanted by men who know exactly what they're doing, to discover what your body is capable of when you stop holding back." Jordan moved from the door, coming to stand at the foot of the bed. "We've all been where you are, kid. All of us had to make this choice at some point. Ye had to decide whether to keep living half a life or embrace the whole truth of who we are. And trust me," Blake said, his hand joining Travis's on my shoulders, "embracing it feels a hell of a lot better than hiding." I looked at each of them in turn. 4 grown men, confident and sure of themselves, looking at me like I was something they wanted, like I was valuable, like I mattered. It was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. "I've never," I started, then stopped. "I haven't done this before, with anyone. I don't know how." "We know," Derek said gently. "We can tell, and that's part of why this is so perfect. We get to be your first, get to show you exactly how good it can be. No fumbling, no uncertainty, just pure experience teaching pure potential." His words sent a spike of heat straight through me. The idea of being taught, of being guided by men who knew what they were doing, it bypassed every rational thought and spoke directly to something deep inside me that had been starving for this kind of attention. "Say yes," Travis urged, his breath hot against my ear. "Say yes, and let us take care of you." I opened my mouth, not sure what would come out, terrified of both possibilities. And in that moment of hesitation, Derek made the choice for me. He leaned in and kissed me. His lips were firm and demanding, nothing tentative or questioning about it. He kissed me like he had every right to, like I was already his. And something inside me just broke open. A dam I'd been holding against a flood of want and need and desperate hunger that I'd never let myself acknowledge. I kissed him back, inexperienced and clumsy but eager. And heard him make a sound of approval low in his throat. His hand slid into my hair, gripping tight, holding me in place as he deepened the kiss. It was nothing like I'd imagined. It was better, real, overwhelming in its intensity. When he finally pulled back, I was gasping for air and my lips felt swollen and sensitized. "That's a yes," Derek said with satisfaction. "I can work with that." Travis's hand tightened on my shoulder. "Welcome to your education, Ryan." And then all four of them were moving at once, and I was drowning in sensation. Hands everywhere, touching and exploring, learning the shape of me. Blake pulled my shirt off over my head, while Jordan's fingers hooked into the waistband of my shorts. Travis's mouth found my neck, teeth scraping over sensitive skin, and Derek just watched with those knowing eyes, orchestrating it all. "Easy," Derek murmured when I started to shake. "We're going to take our time with you, going to make this so good you'll never want anything else." They stripped me efficiently, working together like they'd done this before, like they had a system. Within moments, I was bare on the bed, exposed and vulnerable, and four fully clothed men were looking at me like I was a feast they were about to devour. "Beautiful," Blake said, his voice rough. "Look at him, so responsive already." "Hasn't been touched properly yet," Jordan observed, his hand sliding up my calf. "Still completely untrained." "God, Derek, you were right about this one." I wanted to ask what that meant, but Travis chose that moment to run his thumb over my nipple, and I arched off the bed, a sound escaping me that I'd never made before. He laughed. "He doing it again, harder this time." "Sensitive here," he reported to the others. "Going to be so much fun to play with." "We need to establish some ground rules," Derek said, his hand settling on my chest, pressing me back down to the mattress. "First and most important, you don't come until we give you permission, understand?" I nodded frantically. "Use your words," he commanded. "I understand," I gasped. "Good. Second rule, if something doesn't feel right, you say red and we stop immediately. Yellow means slow down. Green means keep going. Can you remember that?" "Red, yellow, green," I repeated. "Stop, slow down, keep going." "Smart boy," Blake praised, and the words sent pleasure cascading through me. "Third rule, you do what we tell you, when we tell you, how we tell you. We're in charge, we make the decisions. You just have to feel and receive. Can you do that?" Could I? Could I hand over that much control to four men I barely knew? But looking at Derek's face, seeing the certainty there, feeling the weight of their combined attention, I found myself nodding again. "Words, Ryan," Derek reminded. "Yes," I whispered, "I can do that." "That's our good boy," Jordan murmured, and I thought I might come apart from just the praise alone. They took their time after that, learning me with thorough attention, hands mapping every inch of my skin, mouths following, finding places that made me gasp and shake. They worked with clear coordination, passing me between them, building sensation until I was writhing on the bed, desperate and needy and past the point of shame. Derek was the one who finally took mercy on me, his hand wrapping around me, and the touch was electric after so much teasing. I cried out, my hips bucking up, chasing the sensation. "Not yet," he warned. "Remember the rules." I whimpered, trying to hold back, trying to obey, but it was almost impossible with the way he was touching me, and the way the others were still exploring my body, learning my responses. "He's close," Travis observed. "Look at how he's trembling." "Think he can take more?" Blake asked Derek. "Or should we let him have this one?" Derek considered, his hand slowing to a torturous pace. "Oh, he can take more. But we should probably give him something. Positive reinforcement for being so good." "Please," I begged, not even knowing what I was asking for anymore. "That's it," Derek encouraged. "Ask for what you want." Please, I can't, can't what?" Jordan's hand joined Derek's, and the dual sensation was too much. "Can't hold back," I gasped. "Please let me." "Come for us," Derek commanded. "Show us how good you feel." Permission granted, I shattered. The orgasm hit me like a freight train, more intense than anything I'd ever experienced alone. My body arched, and my vision whited out, and I heard myself making sounds I didn't recognize as pleasure crashed through me in waves. When I finally came back to myself, I was shaking and gasping, and there were 4 very satisfied-looking men surrounding me. "That was beautiful," Travis said, his voice rough. "But we're just getting started." I stared at him, unable to form words. Just getting started? Blake's hand slid up my thigh. "That was just to take the edge off. Now we get to really teach you." "But Connor," I tried again weakly. Derek's laugh was dark and amused. "I told you, he's occupied. We have hours, and we plan to use every minute of them." Jordan moved to straddle my legs, his weight pinning me in place. "By the time we're done with you tonight, you're going to understand exactly what you've been missing, exactly what your body is capable of. And you're going to crave it," Travis added, his mouth finding my ear. "Going to need it, going to think about nothing else." Derek's hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "You're ours now, Ryan. For tonight, for this moment, you belong to us. And we're going to make absolutely sure you never forget it." I should have been terrified. Should have been thinking about how wrong this was, how complicated it would make everything. But all I could feel was anticipation and a desperate, aching need to discover what came next. "Yes," I breathed, surrendering completely. "I'm yours." The 4 men smiled, identical expressions of dark satisfaction, and I knew my life had just changed irrevocably. What followed was an education in sensation I could never have imagined. They took turns, each man bringing something different. Travis was commanding and precise, knowing exactly where to touch to make me gasp. Blake was surprisingly gentle, his hands and mouth coaxing responses I didn't know I could give. Jordan was playful, teasing, pushing me right to the edge and then backing off until I was begging. But it was Derek who orchestrated it all. Derek who watched with those knowing eyes and decided when to push and when to hold back. Derek who praised me when I did well and corrected me when I hesitated. "That's it," he murmured, as Jordan's clever fingers worked me open with careful patience. "Just breathe through it. Let yourself feel it." I tried to follow his instructions, but it was overwhelming. Too much sensation, too much focus, too much attention all concentrated on me. My hands fisted in the sheets, and I heard myself making sounds that should have embarrassed me but somehow didn't. "He's so responsive," Blake observed, his hand trailing over my chest. "Look at how he's taken it." "Natural," Travis agreed. "Some people have to be taught. But he was made for this." The words should have been objectifying, should have made me feel like less. But instead, they made me feel powerful in a strange way, like being this responsive, this open, this willing was something valuable rather than shameful. "Please," I gasped, not even sure what I was begging for anymore. "Please what?" Derek asked, moving to sit beside me, his hand stroking through my hair. "Use your words, Ryan. Tell us what you need." "I don't know," I admitted, my voice breaking. "Everything. More. I don't know." He smiled. "That's okay. You don't have to know. That's what we're here for. To know for you. To give you what you need even when you can't name it." Jordan shifted his angle and I cried out, my back arching off the bed. "Found it," he said with satisfaction. "That's the spot that's going to drive you crazy." He was right. Whatever he'd found, it lit up every nerve ending in my body, made stars explode behind my closed eyelids. When he did it again, I nearly came apart from just that touch. "Not yet," Derek warned, his hand wrapping around the base of me, preventing release. "Now, we're not done teaching you." "I can't," I whimpered. "It's too much." "You can," he said firmly. "And you will, because we say so. Because this is what you need. Trust us, Ryan. We know what we're doing." And I did trust them, impossibly. These 4 men I barely knew. I trusted them to push me and hold me and know my limits better than I knew them myself. Time lost meaning. I couldn't have said if minutes or hours had passed. There was only sensation, and their voices guided me through it. Their hands and mouths teaching my body things it had never known. They worked together seamlessly, reading each other's cues, building me up and up until I was nothing but raw sensation and desperate need. When Derek finally deemed me ready, when he positioned himself and began the slow process of claiming me in the most complete way possible, I thought I might die from the intensity of it. The stretch was almost too much. Walking that knife's edge between discomfort and a pleasure so intense it bordered on pain. "Breathe," he commanded, holding still, giving me time to adjust. "Just breathe through it." The other 3 kept touching me, kept grounding me with their presence, their hands, their words of encouragement and praise. And slowly, the discomfort faded into something else. Something that made me crave more, even though I'd thought I was at my limit. "That's it," Derek praised when I finally relaxed, finally opened to him completely. "That's my good boy, taking me so perfectly." He started to move, setting a rhythm that was both demanding and careful, and I discovered new depths of sensation I hadn't known existed. Every thrust hit that spot Jordan had found, sending pleasure cascading through my nervous system until I couldn't think, couldn't breathe, could only feel. "Look at him," Travis said, his voice rough. "Completely gone, lost in it." "This is what he needed," Blake agreed. "What he's been denying himself. Look at how perfect he is like this." Their words washed over me, adding another layer to the overwhelming experience. Being watched, being praised, being wanted by all of them at once, it was intoxicating. When Derek finally gave me permission to let go, when he told me to come for him, I shattered so completely I thought I might never find all the pieces of myself again. The orgasm ripped through me, more intense than anything I'd experienced before, and I heard Derek groan as my body clenched around him, felt him reach his own release. When he finally withdrew, I was boneless, erect, unable to form coherent thoughts. But they weren't done. Jordan took Derek's place, starting the process all over again, and I discovered I had more to give than I'd imagined. They each took their turn, each one different, each one pushing me to new limits. By the time the last of them finished, I was trembling with exhaustion, covered in sweat and other evidence of what we'd done, and more thoroughly claimed than I'd thought possible. They cleaned me gently, their touches now soothing rather than arousing, and arranged me between them on the bed, their bodies surrounding me like a protective barrier. "Sleep," Derek murmured against my hair. "We've got you. You're safe." And despite everything, despite how completely my world had just been upended, I felt safe, being surrounded by these four men who had seen me at my most vulnerable and not only accepted it, but reveled in it. I drifted off with Derek's arm heavy across my waist, Travis's hand in my hair, Blake's warmth at my back, and Jordan's leg thrown over mine, claimed and held, and for the first time in my life, completely certain of who I was and what I wanted. When I woke, sunlight was streaming through the basement windows, and I was alone in the bed. For a moment I thought maybe it had all been a dream, some fevered fantasy my mind had conjured. But my body ached in ways that told the truth. And when I sat up, I saw my clothes folded neatly on the chair, fresh towels laid out for me. On top of the clothes was a note in bold handwriting. "Shower and come upstairs for breakfast. We're not done talking. M.D." My heart hammered as I read those words. Not done. What did that mean? Were they going to tell me last night was a mistake? Or was it a promise of more? I showered quickly, trying to process everything that had happened, failing completely. My reflection in the mirror showed marks on my neck and shoulders, evidence I'd have to hide from Connor. The thought of my best friend sent guilt washing through me. I'd spent the night with his father and his father's friends. How was I supposed to look Connor in the eye? But underneath the guilt was something else, a bone-deep satisfaction, a rightness I'd never felt before. Last night, for the first time in my life, I'd been completely honest about what I wanted, and it had been everything. I dressed in my clean clothes and made my way upstairs, my stomach churning with nervousness. Voices came from the kitchen, male laughter, the smell of coffee and bacon. I paused at the top of the basement stairs, gathering my courage. "You can come in, Ryan," Derek called. "We don't bite, well, not unless you ask nicely." Heat flooded my face as I entered the kitchen. All four men were there, looking completely normal in the morning light. Derek was at the stove, cooking. Travis and Blake were at the table with coffee. Jordan was leaning against the counter, and when I walked in, his eyes tracked over me with obvious appreciation. "Connor?" I asked, my voice coming out rough. "Still asleep," Derek said without turning from the stove. "Talked to that girl until 4 in the morning. He'll be out for hours yet." He glanced over his shoulder at me. "Sit. Eat. We need to discuss some things." I sat gingerly, ease accepting the plate Travis passed me and the coffee Blake poured. They were all watching me, not quite smiling but not serious either, waiting. "Last night," I started, "was incredible," Jordan finished. "And not something any of us are interested in pretending didn't happen." "But it can't happen again," I said, even though the words felt like swallowing glass. "Connor's my best friend. This is his house, his father. I can't." "Can't what?" Derek turned to face me fully, his expression calm. "Can't accept what you want? Can't let yourself have something good? Can't admit that last night was exactly what you needed?" I stared at my plate, unable to meet his eyes. "It's not that simple." "Actually, it is," Blake said. "You're an adult. We're adults. What happens between consenting adults is nobody else's business." "Connor would never understand," I protested. "Connor doesn't need to understand," Travis said. Connor doesn't need to know. This is separate from your friendship with him. Completely separate. How? I asked desperately. How do I sit in this house, hang out with my best friend, and pretend that I didn't spend the night with his dad? Derek moved to sit across from me at the table, his eyes serious now. By understanding that what you and I do, what the five of us share, has nothing to do with Connor. You're not betraying him by being who you are, by wanting what you want. But you're his father, and you're his friend, not his property, not his responsibility. You're your own person, Ryan, with your own needs and desires. And those desires happen to align with what we can offer you. Which is what exactly? I asked, my voice small. The four men exchanged glances. Then Derek spoke carefully. We've known each other for years. All four of us have similar interests, similar needs. We've built something together that works for us, and we've occasionally brought other people into that dynamic when we found someone who fit. You want me to fit? I said slowly. You already do, Jordan said. Last night proved that. But this is insane, I protested. I live 3 hours away. I'm Connor's best friend. I can't just show up here whenever I want to. Why not? Blake asked. You visit Connor all the time. Nobody would question it. And when you're here, when Connor's occupied or asleep or out with friends, we have time together, in private time. My breath came faster as I processed what they were suggesting. A secret relationship. Multiple secret relationships. Seeing them whenever I visited. Sneaking around behind Connor's back. I've never done anything like this before, I said. We know, Derek said gently. Last night made that very clear, and that's part of why this could be perfect. We're not asking you to figure everything out on your own. We're offering to guide you, teach you, help you explore this part of yourself in a safe environment. Safe, I repeated, with four of you. Travis smiled. We're very safety conscious. Last night was just the beginning, Ryan. There's so much more we can show you, so much more you're capable of if you let us help you discover it. The offer was tempting, incredibly tempting. The idea of having this outlet. These men who understood what I needed and could give it to me without judgment or hesitation. It was like being offered water after years in a desert. What if I say no? I asked quietly. What if I decide this was just one night and I want to go back to pretending I'm someone I'm not? Then we respect that, Derek said immediately. You walk away, we never mention it again, and your friendship with Connor continues unchanged. But Ryan, I don't think that's what you want. He was right. I didn't want that at all. Last night had cracked something open inside me, had shown me what life could be like if I stopped hiding. The thought of going back to repression and denial felt suffocating. I need to think about it, I said finally. Fair enough? Derek stood, collecting plates. Take all the time you need, but know that the offer stands. And in the meantime, finish your breakfast. Connor will be up soon, and you'll need your strength for video games. The normalcy of that statement, the easy transition back to everyday life, should have felt jarring, but somehow it was exactly what I needed. Proof that they could separate this intense physical thing from regular life. That I could have both. The rest of the weekend passed almost normally. Connor woke up mid-morning full of excitement about his conversation with Ashley. We spent the day gaming and hanging out, and I managed to push away thoughts of the previous night mostly. But I was hyper-aware of Derek's presence in the house. Every time he walked through the room, every casual touch or comment, it carried weight now. And I'd catch him watching me sometimes with an expression that promised more if I wanted it. The other 3 men had left early Sunday morning, but not before Jordan had found me alone in the bathroom and pressed a piece of paper into my hand. Our numbers, he'd said quietly. If you decide you want this. No pressure, but we're hoping you do. Sunday evening, Connor drove me back to my apartment. As I climbed out of his car, he grinned at me. Thanks for coming down, man. We should do this more often. Yeah, I agreed, my chest tight. We should. I watched him drive away, then looked down at the piece of paper I'd been clutching since morning. 4 phone numbers, 4 men offering me something I'd never thought I could have. I pulled out my phone and typed a message before I could overthink it. This is Ryan. I want to talk more about what you offered. The response came within seconds from Derek's number. We were hoping you'd say that. Friday night. Tell Connor you're coming for the weekend. We'll make sure you have plenty of alone time with us. My heart raced as I typed back. Okay. His next message made my breath catch. Good boy, we have so much more to teach you. I stared at those words, at the promise implicit in them, and felt anticipation flutter in my stomach. My life was about to get complicated in ways I'd never imagined, but I couldn't bring myself to regret it. Not when every cell in my body was singing with the memory of last night. Not when I finally felt like myself. Friday couldn't come fast enough. The week crawled by with agonizing slowness. Every hour felt like days as I went through the motions of my normal life while my mind constantly circled back to Saturday night, to Derek's hands on me, to the way 4 men had completely unmade me, and then put me back together as something new. I'd catch myself touching the fading marks on my shoulders and remembering. The phantom sensation of their touches would hit me at random moments. In class, at the grocery store, lying in bed at night, and I'd have to stop and breathe through the wave of want that crashed over me. Derek texted me daily. Nothing explicit, nothing that would raise suspicion if someone saw my phone, but I understood the subtext in every message. Tuesday. Connor mentioned you're coming Friday. Looking forward to it. Wednesday. We've been planning, going to show you some new things. Thursday. Tomorrow. Be ready. That last message sent shivers down my spine. Be ready for what? My imagination ran wild with possibilities, each one more overwhelming than the last. Friday finally arrived. I packed my overnight bag with shaking hands, trying to decide what to bring. Regular clothes seemed insufficient somehow, like I should be preparing differently for what was coming. In the end, I packed the same things I always did when visiting Connor, but I added the bottle of lube I'd nervously purchased at a drugstore 3 towns over where no one would recognize me. The drive to Connor's house felt eternal and too short all at once. My heart hammered the entire way, my palms sweaty on the steering wheel. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw Derek working on his truck in the garage, and the sight of him made my breath catch. He straightened when he saw me, wiping his hands on a rag, and the smile he gave me was pure promise. I forced myself to grab my bag and head inside like this was any normal visit, even though every nerve ending was hyper-aware of his presence behind me. Connor met me at the door with his usual enthusiasm, completely oblivious to the tension crackling between his father and me. Perfect timing, man. I just ordered pizza, and Ashley's coming over later. My stomach dropped. Ashley's coming here? Yeah, her roommate's having some party and she wanted to avoid it. I figured we could all hang out, watch movies or something. That's cool, right? Totally cool, I lied, trying to hide my disappointment. If Ashley was here, that meant no time alone with Derek. No continuation of what had started last Saturday. Derek appeared in the doorway behind Connor, and when our eyes met, something passed between us. Understanding and amusement and a hint of something darker. He knew what I was thinking, knew I was already aching for what I'd been promised. Actually, Derek said casually, I was thinking of heading out tonight anyway. Travis, Blake, Jordan, and I have a poker game at Travis's place. Monthly tradition. You boys will have the house to yourselves. Connor grinned. Perfect. We won't bother you with our movie marathon. Have fun, Derek said, but he was looking at me when he said it, and the weight of his gaze made my skin flush hot. Then he added, Ryan, can you help me grab something from the basement before I go? Need a second pair of hands? Sure, I managed, following him down the stairs while Connor headed to the kitchen. The moment we were alone in the basement, Derek's hand shot out and gripped the back of my neck, pulling me close. I know you're disappointed, he murmured against my ear. But this works better. Gives us all night at Travis's place. No interruptions. No worrying about Connor waking up. My breath stuttered. All night? All night, he confirmed. Connor thinks I'm playing poker. You're going to get a text in about an hour from a buddy of yours. Some emergency that needs your help. Connor will tell you to go, especially since Ashley's here. And then you're going to drive to the address I'm about to text you. But what if Connor? Derek's hand tightened. Connor won't question it. Why would he? You're his responsible friend who helps people. He'll probably be relieved to have alone time with Ashley anyway. He pulled back enough to look at me. Unless you don't want this. Unless you've changed your mind. No, I said quickly, probably too quickly. I want this. I've been thinking about it all week. His smile was dark and satisfied. Good, because we've been planning. Tonight's going to be intense, Ryan. Last week was introduction. Tonight's education. A shiver ran through me. What does that mean? You'll find out. He released me and stepped back, his expression shifting to something more neutral as footsteps sounded on the stairs above. The toolbox is in that cabinet. Grab it for me. I retrieved the toolbox with trembling hands and carried it upstairs, where Connor was setting out plates for pizza. Derek took the toolbox. He squeezed my shoulder in what would look like a casual gesture to anyone watching, and headed out to the garage. 45 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize, but I understood immediately. I read it aloud to Connor, making my voice concerned. My buddy Jake's car broke down on Highway 12. He needs a jump. Connor barely looked up from where he was sitting with Ashley on the couch. That sucks. You should go help him. We'll save you some pizza. You sure? I don't want to bail on movie night. Dude, go. Connor waved me off. Jake needs you. Besides, Ashley and I will probably just end up making out anyway. Ashley laughed and swatted him, and I felt a pang of something. Not quite jealousy, but close. They were so easy together, so normal. No secrets or complications. But then, I thought about what was waiting for me, and the pang faded into anticipation. I grabbed my keys and headed out, pulling up the address Derek had texted me. Travis's place was 30 minutes away, in a more remote area outside town. The drive felt surreal, like I was watching myself from outside my body, unable to quite believe I was doing this. The house was set back from the road, surrounded by trees. Privacy. No neighbors to hear or see anything. My hands shook as I parked next to Derek's truck and two other vehicles I recognized from last weekend. Before I could even get out of my car, the front door opened. Jordan stood there, backlit by warm interior light, and his smile was pure welcome. There's our boy. We were starting to think you'd chicken out. I'm here, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Yes. Ooh, you are. He stepped aside to let me in, and we're going to make sure you never regret it. The interior of Travis's house was unexpectedly nice. Hardwood floors, leather furniture, the kind of place that spoke of money and taste. The other three men were in the living room, and they all looked up when I entered. The atmosphere was different than last weekend. More relaxed in some ways, but also more intentional. They'd planned this. Whatever was about to happen, they'd discussed it and prepared for it. Welcome, Travis said, rising from his seat. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt that showed off his arms, and the casual confidence in his posture made my mouth go dry. Can I get you something to drink? We're not trying to get you drunk, but if you need something to take the edge off. I'm okay, I said, then reconsidered. Maybe water? Blake appeared with a glass, pressing it into my hands. Drink. Then we're going to talk before anything else happens. That surprised me. Talk? Communication is important, Derek said, moving to stand in front of me. Last weekend was spontaneous, intense, but if we're going to continue this, we need to establish some things. They guided me to sit on the couch, and the four of them arranged themselves around me, close, but not crowding. Travis sat beside me, his thigh warm against mine. Derek took the chair directly across. Blake and Jordan flanked us, creating a circle of masculine presence that made me feel simultaneously safe and on edge. First things first, Derek began. How are you feeling about what happened last weekend? Any regrets? Any concerns? I thought about lying, about playing it cool. But something in his eyes told me that wouldn't fly. I'm scared, I admitted, of how much I want this, of what it means about me, of the secret I'm keeping from Connor. All valid concerns, Blake said. Let's address them one at a time. You want this. That's not something to be scared of. That's something to celebrate. You're finally being honest with yourself about who you are. And who am I? I asked quietly. Someone who needs what we can give you, Jordan answered. Someone who craves surrender and guidance and intensity. Someone who's been starving himself and finally found nourishment. The words settled into me, resonating with truth I'd been afraid to acknowledge. As for Connor, Derek continued, what you and I do, what the five of us share, it's separate. You're not lying to him about anything that concerns him. You're just keeping your private life private. But you're his father, and you're his friend. Those are facts, but they don't define everything about us. Connor has no claim on your sexuality or your choices. Neither do I, as his father, have any obligation to share details of my private life with him. Travis's hand settled on my knee. This is consensual between adults. That's all that matters. Connor doesn't need to know, and frankly, it's none of his business. I wanted to argue, but the logic was sound. And more than that, I wanted to believe them, because the alternative was giving this up. Okay, I said finally, but what exactly is this? What are we doing here? The four men exchanged glances. Then Derek spoke carefully. We're offering you a place in our dynamic. The four of us have been together in various configurations for years. We trust each other completely. We know what we need and what we can give. And we think you could fit with us. Not as an equal partner, at least not yet, but as someone we mentor and care for and, yes, use for our pleasure. The bluntness of that last part sent heat flooding through me. Think of it as an apprenticeship, Blake suggested. We teach you about yourself, about what your body can do, what your mind can handle. We push your limits and expand them. We make you better, stronger, more complete. And in return, I asked, you give us access, Travis said simply. When you're here, you're ours. You follow our instructions. You trust our judgment. You let us take you apart and put you back together. Jordan leaned forward. But you can also walk away at any time. This only works if you're choosing it, if you want it as much as we do. I looked at each of them in turn. Four confident, experienced men offering me something I'd never even known to want. The smart thing would be to run, to protect myself and my friendship with Connor, and my comfortable illusion of normalcy. But I'd tried comfortable illusion my whole life, and it had left me empty. I want this, I said, my voice clear and certain. I want to learn. I want you to teach me. Derek's smile was slow and satisfied. Then let's begin your next lesson. They stood as one, and Travis pulled me to my feet. First rule of tonight, he said, you address each of us as sir. Second rule, you don't come without permission. Third rule, you use your colors if anything gets too intense. Remember those? Red, yellow, green, I recited. Stop. Gee, slow down. Keep going. Good boy, Derek praised, and the words went straight to my core. Now strip. Let's see what we're working with. My hands went to my shirt, fumbling with buttons while 4 pairs of eyes tracked my every movement. The attention should have made me self-conscious, but instead, it made me feel powerful, desired, important. When I was finally bare before them, Blake moved forward and ran his hands over my body, clinical but appreciative. Still marking from last weekend, he observed, fingers tracing the fading bruises on my hips. We need to be careful not to overdo it. Don't want anything Connor might see. I can be more careful, Jordan agreed. Strategic placement. They discussed me like I wasn't there, and somehow that objectification made me harder than I'd ever been. From being reduced to a body they were planning to use, it shouldn't have been hot, but it was. He's ready, Travis observed, his hand wrapping around me without warning. I gasped and my hips jerked forward. Very ready. Question is, are we taking him together tonight or separately? Together, Derek decided. He needs to learn to handle all of us at once, needs to understand what it means to truly surrender. My breath came faster as his words registered, all of them, at the same time. I'd barely managed them taking turns last weekend. How was I supposed to handle them simultaneously? Overwhelmed already, Blake noted, reading my expression. That's good. Fear and anticipation are both arousal. We're going to teach you to ride that edge. They moved me through the house to what was clearly a prepared room. The bedroom was large, and dominated by a massive bed, but I barely noticed the decor. I only noticed the restraints attached to the headboard and the supplies laid out on the nightstand. We're going to tie you up tonight, Jordan explained, seeing where my eyes had gone. Not because we don't trust you to hold still, but because sometimes surrendering control is easier when the choice is taken away. I nodded, unable to form words as they guided me to the bed. Travis and Blake positioned me carefully, spreading my arms and securing the soft cuffs around my wrists. The restraints had enough give that I could move slightly, but I was effectively pinned. Color? Derek asked, standing at the foot of the bed. Green, I whispered. Good. Now we're going to spend the next few hours teaching you about endurance, about how much your body can take, about pleasure so intense it borders on pain and pain that transforms into pleasure, and you're going to lie there and accept everything we give you because that's what you agreed to. What followed was more intense than anything I could have imagined. They worked me over with systematic thoroughness, mapping every response, finding every sensitive spot, pushing me to the edge of release over and over and then pulling me back. Time became meaningless. There were moments of overwhelming sensation when I thought I'd shatter, moments of tenderness that made my chest ache, moments when I begged and pleaded and received either mercy or denial, depending on what they thought I needed. They talked among themselves while they worked, discussing my responses, sharing observations, coordinating their efforts like a well-trained team. And I floated in subspace, that place beyond thought where only sensation existed, trusting them completely to know my limits better than I knew them myself. When they finally released me from the restraints, I couldn't move. My body felt like liquid, every muscle loose and satisfied. They cleaned me with warm cloths, their touches gentle now, and arranged me in the center of the bed. You did so well, Derek murmured, carding his fingers through my sweat-dampened hair. Took everything we gave you and asked for more. Beautiful to watch, Travis agreed, his hand tracing patterns on my back. Made for this, Blake added. Jordan pressed a kiss to my temple. Our perfect boy. The praise wrapped around me like a blanket. making something in my chest expand and warm. I'd never felt so completely accepted, so thoroughly known, and still wanted. "Sleep," Derek commanded softly. "We've got you. You're safe." And surrounded by their warmth, their presence, their protection, I slept more deeply than I had in years. I woke to filtered sunlight and the smell of coffee. My body ached in the best way, a deep satisfaction in every muscle. I was alone in the bed, but I could hear voices from elsewhere in the house. Carefully, I sat up, taking stock of myself. Sore but not injured, marked but not damaged, changed but not broken. Whatever they'd done to me last night had pushed me to new limits, but I'd survived. More than survived, I'd thrived. I found my clothes folded on a chair and dressed slowly, then followed the sound of voices to the kitchen. All 4 men were there, freshly showered and dressed, looking infuriatingly normal for people who'd spent the night thoroughly ruining me. "Morning," Derek said, handing me a cup of coffee. "How are you feeling?" "Sore," I admitted, "but good, really good." "Excellent." He guided me to sit at the table where a plate of breakfast was waiting. "Eat, we need to talk about logistics." Over eggs and bacon, they laid out their vision. This arrangement could continue long-term if I wanted it. Whenever I visited Connor, we'd find time together. They'd also planned specific weekends when I could come down just for them, telling Connor I was visiting other friends. "We're invested in you now," Travis explained, "in your development, your growth. This isn't just about sex, though that's certainly part of it. It's about helping you become who you're meant to be." "Which is?" I asked. Someone who's comfortable in his own skin," Blake said. "Someone who doesn't apologize for his needs or his desires. Someone who stands tall in his truth." "We've all been where you are," Jordan added. "All struggled with acceptance. All had to make the choice between hiding and living. We chose living, and we want to help you do the same." Derek leaned back in his chair, studying me. "But this only works if you're fully committed. If you're going to be half in, half out, it's better to end it now." The thought of ending it sent panic through my chest. I'd had a taste of what life could be like when I stopped hiding, and I couldn't go back. Wouldn't go back. "I'm committed," I said firmly. "I want this. Want to learn everything you can teach me." Their smiles were identical expressions of satisfaction. "Then welcome to your new life." "Ryan," Derek said, "welcome to the truth of who you are." The rest of the morning was spent in comfortable conversation and gentle touches, reaffirming the bond we'd formed. By the time I left Travis's house, the sun was high and Connor had texted asking if I was coming back or if Jake's car issues had derailed the whole weekend. I texted back that I'd be there soon and drove back to Connor's house with my mind spinning. How was I supposed to act normal after the night I'd had? How was I supposed to look at Derek and not remember everything? But when I walked in the door, it was surprisingly easy. Connor was distracted and happy, full of stories about Ashley. Derek was in the den watching football, and when he glanced up at me, there was nothing inappropriate in his expression, and just a knowing warmth that settled in my chest and reminded me I had a secret worth keeping. The rest of the weekend passed normally. Connor and I gamed and ordered pizza and did all the usual things. But underneath, I was different. More present somehow. More real. Like I'd been living in black and white before, and someone had finally turned on the color. Sunday afternoon, as I prepared to leave, Derek found me alone by my car. "Next weekend," he said quietly, pretending to check my tire pressure. "Tell Connor you're visiting. We'll have you Friday night through Sunday morning. Think you can handle that?" My pulse quickened. A whole weekend. "Yes, sir." His smile was quick and approving. "Good boy. We have so much more to show you." The drive home felt different this time. I wasn't running from something anymore. I was running toward it. Toward the truth of myself. Toward men who saw me and accepted me, and demanded I become the fullest version of myself. Over the following months, the pattern established itself. I visited Connor regularly, maintaining our friendship while stealing time with Derek and his friends. Some weekends, Connor was busy with Ashley and didn't notice my absences. Other times, I made excuses, created fictional obligations that took me away for an evening or a night. The guilt I'd expected never really materialized. Derek was right. What we had was separate from my friendship with Connor. Completely separate. And maintaining that separation was easier than I'd imagined. The arrangement evolved. The intensity remained, but layers of trust and understanding built on top of it. They learned me thoroughly, knew what I needed before I knew it myself. And I learned them too, their preferences, their tells, their individual approaches to dominance. Derek was the planner, the strategist who orchestrated everything with careful precision. Travis was demanding and exacting, pushing me hardest. Blake brought surprising gentleness mixed with iron control. Jordan was playful, but no less intense, making me laugh even as he reduced me to desperate need. Together they formed something greater than the sum of parts, and I found my place among them, not as an equal, but as something valued, treasured even. 3 months in, Connor started talking about a spring break trip. He wanted to do something with Ashley, maybe invite a few other friends. "You should come," he said. "Bring someone if you want. Make it a group thing." I made non-committal noises, but later that night, alone with Derek in the basement, I brought it up. "I don't know how to date," I admitted. "Don't know how to be normal about this. Everything I want, everything I crave, it's what you four give me. How am I supposed to find that anywhere else?" Derek pulled me close, his arms solid around me. "You're not supposed to find it anywhere else. This is what works for you. The question is whether you're ready to stop hiding." "I can't tell Connor." "I'm not suggesting you tell Connor, but Ryan, you're 22 years old. At some point, you're going to have to live your life openly. Maybe not the details, but the broad strokes, your sexuality, your preferences, who you are." The thought terrified me, but it also thrilled me. To stop pretending, to stop making excuses, to just exist as myself. "I don't know if I'm ready," I whispered. "Oh, that's okay." He pressed a kiss to my temple. "You don't have to be ready today, but start thinking about it. Start imagining what your life could look like if you stopped hiding." I thought about it a lot over the next weeks. Thought about what it would mean to come out, to face judgment and questions and all the complicated reactions people would have. Thought about whether keeping this secret was worth the freedom it gave me, or whether the secret itself was just another cage. The decision came unexpectedly. I was at lunch with Connor and Ashley, and she was talking about her friend Marcus, who'd just started dating someone new. "It's so cute," she gushed. "They're adorable together. His boyfriend is this big architect guy, totally out of Marcus's league, but somehow it works." Connor nodded along, completely comfortable with the topic. And something clicked in my brain. My best friend wasn't a bigot, wasn't someone who would reject me. I'd been so afraid of his reaction that I'd never stopped to actually consider what that reaction might be. "Connor," I said, interrupting whatever Ashley had been saying, "I need to tell you something." He looked at me, concern flashing across his face. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong, but I've been keeping something from you, and I don't want to anymore." I took a deep breath. "I'm gay. I've known for a while, but I've been scared to say it out loud, scared of how people would react." The silence that followed felt eternal. Then Connor reached across the table and gripped my shoulder. "Dude, thank you for telling me. That must have been scary. But you know I don't care, right? Like, you're my best friend. Whether you date guys or girls or nobody at all, that doesn't change." Relief flooded through me so intensely I felt dizzy. "Really?" Really? He squeezed my shoulder once more before releasing it. Have you told your parents? Not yet. You're the first person I've told. Ashley was beaming at me. I'm honored you trusted us. And if you ever need to talk or if people give you crap, we've got your back. Connor nodded emphatically. Absolutely. And hey, now you can come on spring break and actually try to meet someone instead of making excuses about why you're not interested in any of Ashley's friends. I laughed, the sound shaky but genuine. Maybe. I'm not really looking for anything right now. Still figuring stuff out. That's fair, Connor said. No pressure, but I'm glad you told me. And I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you couldn't. You didn't, I assured him. This was all me, my fear, my hesitation. That night I told Derek what I'd done. We were in the basement and he'd been working me over with skillful precision. But when I told him about coming out to Connor, he stopped completely. That's huge, he said, pulling me into his arms. I'm proud of you. The praise meant everything. I couldn't tell him about us, though. About you. That felt like too much. That's fine. That stays private. He tipped my chin up. But you took the first step. Claim part of your truth. That takes courage. I learned it from you, I said. All of you. You taught me that hiding was more painful than facing the truth. His kiss was tender, which was rare. Usually they were demanding, commanding, taking what they wanted. Oh, but this was different. This was celebration. You're not the same scared kid who walked into our lives 6 months ago, Derek murmured against my lips. You've grown, become stronger, more sure of yourself. Because you made me, I said. Because you saw something in me I didn't see in myself. We saw potential. You did the work of actualizing it. The conversation shifted after that, becoming about the future, about what I wanted long-term, about whether this arrangement could sustain me forever, or if eventually I'd want something else. I don't know, I admitted. Right now, this is everything I need. But I'm also 22. I don't know who I'll be at 30 or 40. And that's okay, Derek assured me. This works for now. When it stops working, we'll figure something else out. But Ryan, you'll always have a place with us. Even if the physical part ends, you're family now. We protect our own. The word family hit me hard. I'd spent so much time thinking of this as a secret, a shameful thing to hide. But they were right. This was family. Unconventional and complicated, but family nonetheless. The semester ended. Summer arrived. Connor got serious with Ashley, spending most of his time with her, which meant I had more freedom to spend time with Derek and his friends without raising suspicions. We fell into an easy rhythm. I'd come down on weekends, stay at the house, and nobody questioned it anymore. I was Derek's son's best friend. Of course, I was around a lot. The deception should have bothered me more than it did. But it wasn't really deception. It was privacy. Connor knew I was gay now. He just didn't know the specifics of my relationship with his father. And those specifics weren't his business. One hot July evening, we were all in Travis's backyard, grilling dinner and drinking beer. The atmosphere was relaxed, domestic almost. Derek was working the grill, while Travis and Blake argued good-naturedly about sports. Jordan sat beside me on the deck, his hand resting casually on my thigh. Happy, he asked quietly. I considered the question. 6 months ago, I'd been terrified and hiding and desperately lonely, even though I'd been surrounded by friends. Now, I was sitting in the summer twilight with 4 men who knew me completely, and I felt more at peace than I'd ever been. Yeah, I said. I'm happy. Good. He squeezed my thigh. Because we're happy too. You fit with us, Ryan. Better than we could have hoped. Derek called us to dinner, and we gathered around the table like any group of friends might. Easy conversation and laughter and the comfortable silence of people who knew each other well. And underneath it all, the current of something deeper, something that would express itself later when we went inside, and they reminded me exactly what I was to them. But for now, this was enough. The normalcy and the anticipation mixed together, the knowledge that I could be both things, Connor's best friend and Derek's devoted submissive, that I didn't have to choose between the different parts of myself. I'd spent so long thinking I had to hide to be safe, but these men had taught me that safety came from acceptance, from being known and valued exactly as I was. That surrender wasn't weakness, but strength. That embracing my truth didn't diminish me, but completed me. After dinner, we moved inside. The easy domesticity shifted as it always did, becoming charged with anticipation. Derek's hand on my shoulder was both comforting and commanding, guiding me toward the bedroom. "We've been discussing something," he said, as the five of us settled into the space. "A next step in your training." My pulse quickened. "What kind of next step?" "You've learned to handle us individually and in pairs," Travis explained. "You've learned endurance and obedience and how to ride the edge between pain and pleasure. But there's one more lesson we want to teach you. Complete surrender," Blake said. "The kind where you trust us so completely that you stop thinking altogether, stop questioning, just exist in sensation and service." Jordan's hand found mine. "It's intense. It's overwhelming. But we think you're ready." I looked at each of them, seeing the certainty in their faces. They believed I could do this, believed I was strong enough for whatever they had planned. "I trust you," I said simply. "Show me." What they showed me over the next hours was transcendent. They pushed me past every limit I thought I had, then pushed further still. And when I thought I couldn't take more, they found reserves in me I didn't know existed. There were moments I left my body entirely, floating in a space beyond thought or fear. Moments where pleasure and pain became indistinguishable. Moments where I understood on a fundamental level what it meant to truly surrender, to give everything and trust it would be cherished, rather than destroyed. They caught me when I fell, as they always did, held me through the intensity and the aftermath. Yeah, praised me for my strength, even as they revealed new weaknesses to conquer. And when it was finally over, when I lay boneless and thoroughly wrecked in the center of the bed, I understood something I'd been dancing around for months. This wasn't just physical, wasn't just about sex or dominance or teaching. Somewhere along the way, I'd fallen in love with all four of them, differently with each one, but completely with all of them. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness, not sure if they'd hear or if they'd want to hear it. But Derek's arms tightened around me. "We love you too," he murmured. "All of us. That's why this works." Travis's hand found mine. "You're ours, Ryan, completely, and we're yours just as much. Forever if you want it," Blake added. "Forever," Jordan confirmed. I closed my eyes, letting the weight of those words settle over me. Forever sounded impossible and perfect in equal measure, but lying there between them, surrounded by their warmth and acceptance and unwavering commitment to my growth, forever felt attainable. The future stretched ahead, full of complications I couldn't predict. Eventually, I'd have to navigate how to maintain this relationship as I built a career and a life outside of their orbit. Eventually, the secret might become unsustainable, might need to be shared more broadly or transformed into something else entirely. But that was future Ryan's problem. Present Ryan was exactly where he needed to be, held by men who saw him completely and loved him anyway, who'd taken a scared, hiding boy and taught him to stand tall in his truth. "Thank you," I whispered, "for everything, for seeing me, for not letting me hide." "Thank you for trusting us," Derek replied. for being brave enough to say yes, for becoming this. Sleep claimed me gradually, pulling me under while their hands remained on me, even in rest, claiming and protecting and cherishing. And in my last conscious thought before dreams took over, I realized I'd finally found what I'd been searching for my entire life. Not just acceptance or pleasure or belonging, but home. Home wasn't a place. It was these 4 men who demanded everything from me and gave everything in return, who pushed me to become more than I'd thought possible, who loved me fiercely and without reservation. I'd walked into Derek's basement 6 months ago, terrified and hiding, and I'd walked out transformed, no longer the scared boy pretending to be someone he wasn't, but a man comfortable in his own skin, confident in his desires, certain of his worth. They'd given me that gift, and I'd spend the rest of my life grateful for it. Morning came too soon, bringing with it the return to regular life, but I faced it differently now. No more shame, no more hiding, just me, living my truth, surrounded by people who loved me for exactly who I was. Connor picked me up for lunch that afternoon, and as we drove through town, he glanced over at me. "You seem different lately, happier, more relaxed." "I am," I agreed. "I think I'm finally figuring out who I am." "Good," he grinned. "I'm glad. You deserve to be happy, man. You deserve to have everything you want." If only he knew how much I already had. But that was okay. Some truths were meant to be shared. Others were meant to be treasured privately. And as we pulled into the restaurant parking lot, I smiled, thinking about Friday night, about returning to Travis's house, about 4 men who would spend the weekend reminding me exactly who I belonged to and exactly who I was meant to be. I'd found my place in the world, and I was never letting it go.